Welcome to SMB Podcast, where we provide our views on the economy, capital markets, geopolitics, and emerging technologies. I'm your host, Sam Bale, the founder of Future Capital Partners, or FCP, with my good friend and your co-host, John Sinclair. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Sam. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm John Sinclair. I'm a corporate strategy and transformation specialist. I have developed some of the most complex turnaround and growth strategies for some of the Fortune 500 global companies, as well as late-stage startups. I've also engineered and led some of the most complex transformation programs globally with many successes and some setbacks, and I truly hope that I could share those experiences with you. Back to you, Sam.
John, I'm very excited about today's topic. It's 5G. We have been talking about it offline, and there's no doubt that 5G will revolutionize the way we live, from communications to transportation or healthcare. While this sounds all good, but with that, we will have a lot of challenges as well. So that being said, we want to find out exactly what is 5G, right? So even I can understand, and how is that different? Also, we want to get into some applications. You can walk us through some exciting applications, and at least we want to find out what are the risks, right? What are the other side of 5G, the cons? So, that being said, why don't you just give us in a layman's terms, what is really 5G, right? And how is that different from 3G or 4G, and why we need it?
Excellent question, Sam. I'll do my best to simplify this. So 5G. So 5G is basically, think about it, it's a fifth generation mobile technology standard, right? So prior to that, there was 4G LTE, there was 4G, 3G, then it was Edge, all that, right? So what's the difference, right? So if you're using your cell phone technology today, you already notice, or you can already see on the upper right corner, it says 5G, and you could already see the difference in speed. So two things that jumps out from a layman's term, it's the speed and the latency. So the speed in which it represents the bandwidth and the download speed, and the latency, it's the response time, right? It's the time it takes from your handheld device to making it a round trip to wherever your application or system is hosted, right?
Can you give us an analogy? An
example?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. So think about it today, like if you are driving a car, right? Mm-hmm. If you're driving a regular car with a GPS navigation, what happens? It works perfect because the GPS navigation is pulling data sets from somewhere in a cloud services provider, and it's sending out real time the traffic data and telling you left, right, avoid any detours, all that stuff. What happens when you enter into a tunnel where there is no Wi-Fi or mobile signal? Mm-hmm. You come out of the tunnel, all of a sudden your car is basically lost because there is no connection to your mobile network, right? Your GPS at this point is completely at a standstill, right? Trying to figure out the route. Mm-hmm. So this is a perfect example because one, it did not have continuous connectivity, and because of the response time at this point is so much, it's going to be a while by the time your mobile device or your GPS device connects to a network and resyncs with the server, whether it's a cloud or a local, I don't know, and starts functioning the way it's supposed to, right? So that would be a good example, right? So why is it important? Right? Mm-hmm. So perhaps it's not all that important if you're a consumer driving a car. It was a little bit inconvenient. Mm-hmm. But imagine what 5G enables. So 5G, one of the things it does is because of so let me give you quickly some of the big differences. 3G to 4G, I look at it as an evolution. Mm-hmm. As some level of transformation elements, but it's an engineering evolution. Mm-hmm. But from a 4G LTE to 5G, it's no longer an evolution. This is a full-blown disruptive transformation. Mm-hmm. And I'll get to the word disruptive, why I said that, right? Mm-hmm. Because just look at the sheer difference from if you think about the connectivity density. Mm-hmm. What I mean by that. So at the moment, all the IoT devices, sensors like your phone, your smart home thermostat, your wearable devices that are communicating, internet connected. Mm-hmm. So on a 4G network, you could probably have approximately about 2,000 devices or sensors communicating in a 4G network, right? In a square kilometer, right? Now you compare that with 5G, it's going to have 1 million IoT devices communicating with each other in a quarter kilometer space. Just think about the density. So that's that.
It's a million in total, or how you came up with that number, million?
Well, that is the number that has been published, right? So I think the actual math is, I believe it's a 0.38 kilometer, right? Square kilometer.
Oh, so within that's the parameter, like within the square miles.
Correct. So you could have that many devices that could connect with each other, or, crosstalk each other, right? So just look at the difference, right? From a 2,000 to 1 million. So in a full mile, you're looking at plus 3 thousand devices communicating. So this is a significant, not only disruption, but a transformation, as a society as a whole, because this is going to enable hyper connectivity, right? When you think about smart home, today smart home is semi-smart. It's not fully smart, right? To me, a fully smart home would be, I'm sure there's some available perhaps at Silicon Valley, but someone like myself, I don't have it. I probably, the closest thing I have is a smart home is a smart TV that does not talk to my smart fridge, and definitely does not talk to my fridge does not talk to my smart thermostat, right? So it's a semi-smart. It's like some convenient factors that's playing. But in the era of 5G, this is going to completely enable all these ecosystem players, right, to connect with each other, collaborate, and of course, mass create products and services, right? And then of course the response time difference, which is the latency, right? So latency today in a 4G network, you're looking at it could be upward of almost 50 millisecond. Right? And then you compare that with a 5G. 5G is going to be, I would say, anywhere maybe between 10 or maybe even 1 millisecond, right? So that this is where you see the speed. And why does it matter? Why this kind of latency is so important? Imagine, I just gave you an example, a very, a minor example of GPS navigation. But imagine the same situation applying to an emergency vehicle. An ambulance transporting a person who's going into a cardiac arrest, and they have to get from the home to a nearest hospital. They can't afford to lose connectivity, right? You need absolutely every second counts. Not only the fact that transporting from point A to point B, but also you could now embed other services while the patient is en route. With artificial intelligence, with robotics, and of course, complete connectivity provided through 5G, a medical professional from a hospital could actually already proactively start providing life-saving treatments, right, of this patient that's en route right to the hospital. So just think about the difference this makes. Something that is nearly impossible. That's just one example, right? I'll pause. You have any questions before I go any deeper?
No, that was a perfect segue to the next topic. I thank you for elaborating on the fundamentals of what a 5G is. Given the vast amount of, has a vast amount of applications. So give us some more examples or use cases of 5G, right? And also we want to know what are the goods and uglies of 5G, right? It seems exciting, but we also want to know the other side of the coin.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I like that. I think that's very good because I think when you listen to all the vendors out there, consulting firms, product manufacturers, right, naturally they highlight all the pros, right, all the strength, all the good things that 5G will do, and rightfully so. But there are some concerns. In my opinion, I think a lot of them are probably not as well-founded. But there are also some challenges, right? And I think it's important for us to have those conversations, as you say, good, bad, and ugly, right? So that way our viewers could actually, make an informed decision, whether they're investors, whether they're actual independent users, or companies that are simply trying to take advantage of 5G for industrial manufacturing or any other profession for that matter, including law enforcement, right? I could just go on. I think this could be a topic that is so big. So think about entertainment. So let's start with a more happy one, right? So think about how we experience entertainment today, whether we're watching a concert or whether we're going to a football game or a tennis game, right? If you think about going into one of the hottest ticket in town, let's just say Bruno Mars or Britney Spears or whoever, right? I went to a Bruno Mars concert. and I paid pretty penny to see the show. And to be honest with you, I was very disappointed. Not at Bruno Mars, but the experience, because I ended up sitting all the way in the back somewhere. Only way I could see Bruno Mars if I look at him on the big screen, which kind of
maybe it's because you bought cheap tickets.
well, that's the whole, there you go, right? So whatever it may be, I mean, trust me, it was pretty. It was upward of $200, right, to get that ticket.
Yeah.
But my point was, the experience wasn't there. I'm a huge Bruno Mars fan, right? But watching him on a TV screen as I was sitting there, I realized I was missing out. It was people were having fun in the front row. They were dancing, they were singing. It's that immersive experience. Like you're able to touch your favorite star, the comedian, whatever. I don't mean like a Will Smith style touching, but in an admirational way, right?
Yeah.
So now think about what 5G does, right? 5G will create or enable the opportunity to bring that immersive experience anywhere, any place in the world. So actually, Qatar, there was the football game happened, and they set up this entire 5G network components in a shopping mall with wearable technologies. So the consumer will walk into this mall, to a small room. They put this AR, VR type devices, wearable device, and 5G is enabling this real-time connectivity. They're able to enjoy that football, that game. It's so rich and so immersive, as if they were sitting there at the front row, a ticket that normally would be $3,000 to $5,000. Right, so gaining that type of experience. Look what it does, not just from the enabling the experience, right? But look what it does. It enables an ecosystem of players. It enables an ecosystem of revenue generation. Today, the revenue generation is limited to the venue where the game is played or the concert is being played. By enabling, leveraging 5G capability, these companies now, their ticket sales are no longer limited to their venue, the seat capacity. They could be selling the same quality of service anywhere in the world that they have 5G capability, of course, supported by enabling technologies like wearable devices, right? So that's just one example, right? And now let's talk about law enforcement.
I mean, before you get into law enforcement, we had this conversation offline, my personal favorite, self-driving cars, right? A lot of people think self-driving car is it's a inhabitant function, but connectivity matters, right? So tell us why 5G is a matter for self-driving cars.
Yeah. So look at where the self-driving car technology is today. So when we think about self-driving car, the first thing comes to mind is Tesla, right? But again, this is also a subscription base, and with a limited application, not everybody has it, and it's not full self-driving, right? And there's a reason for that. Because the decision is being made, all the artificial intelligence engine, all the machine learning algorithm providing this, all the real-time instruction is coming from somewhere from the cloud into the device at the car, right? It's great when you have complete end-to-end connectivity, but when you don't have connectivity, if you're relying 100% on a self-driving and you enter into a tunnel or someplace there's absolutely no connectivity, things could go really bad, right? So having the 5G capability, it also enables edge computing, meaning your computing decision no longer has to come from a cloud. It could be from a local vehicle in this example, right? So now you could actually have that real-time connection, real-time decision making. Now, when you take those capability and apply to whether it's a law enforcement or healthcare, like ambulance, right? Things that requires every second matters, accuracy matters, right? So this is really powerful. But it also matters go into the more deeper. When you think about 5G connectivity and a police vehicle that is fully equipped with all sorts of cameras and sensors, just driving by mall and scanning license plates, in a matter of seconds, they'll be able to identify potential culprits. Suppose there's a child abduction, right? This is a massive, undertaking to go. It's every second matters, when a child is abducted, right? So imagine technologies like this being able to scan, hundreds and thousands of license plate, and checking with the back-end data sets and identifying potential list of suspects, right? and being able to save that, or save that child, right, that has been abducted, right? So think about it this way. So I think the application is tremendous, right? But I want to talk about something a little bit more than just very specific. What 5G is doing is, as I mentioned before, you remember the density, the connection density. Connection density, it changes the game. It makes the possibility of the whole concept of a smart home, smart office, smart factory, smart city a reality, right? I mean, today one of the biggest challenge we have, like I was saying to you earlier, that we have a smart TV, but the smart TV does not speak to my smart refrigerator. That's a problem. That's a huge problem, right? Wouldn't it be nice that when I'm watching TV, my smart TV sensors recognizes I go in the middle of a movie to my refrigerator, and the refrigerator is in real time making recommendation what would be the perfect thing to snack to grab while I'm there, right? Or depending on which room I'm in, connecting, and having that same communication taking place with my smart thermostat, adjusting the room temperature. So it's the experience is seamless. As I'm moving around the house, it's happening. But that doesn't happen today, right? Simply because these product manufacturers, the data sets, they all own their own data, right? And because of that, that's a huge problem, right? So because of the there is no sharing of data, right? They're not able to create an end-to-end experience, right? That's the first problem. The second piece that I see is privacy impact. So now think about it this way. Your smart TV probably knows more about you, maybe more than you would like them to know, than your wife perhaps, right? I mean, let's be real. You've got Alexa and Siri in the house in a 24/7 listening mode, right? They're listening in real time, capturing data, running analytics, but it's owned by the hardware provider, right? So wouldn't you want that data sets to be available so the ecosystems of player could offer you different products and services that are more interconnected, right? The era of hyperconnectivity to give you that full immersive experience, right? For that to happen, that means that data has to be shared. Today, that's not possible. That's simply not possible, simply because, when every individual product, they get their own consent, and there's a lot of limitation. So that's going to be a huge roadblock as
Because companies don't want to share their data, right? They
Correct.
view the data as a asset. It's not an
Correct.
asset. It's a commodity, right? It should be controlled and governed by the consumers that are providing the data. Of course, companies can argue, hey, we provide devices and platform to provide services, and that's therefore they are giving us the data. So how can we reach that state where there's a centralized model where all the data has been deposited, and then other players can use it to provide more efficient and effective services without violating any privacy issues? And,
Yeah. So I think it's important to highlight, right? There's 2 or 3 that are key risks that is preventing for the society as a whole to take advantage of a powerful enabling technology like 5G. So I think I talked about the privacy. I think I also talked about the lack of data sharing, right, across the provider. But there's more, right? So we talk about privacy. There's also security concerns, right? Because now you're going to be having all these data sets going to be used by so many connected devices. I think there was recently an audit done by Accenture, and they found out about 24% of these devices, they had no idea they were compromised. IoT devices, right? So there has to be a significant activity in building up security layer to enable this type of massive connected or hyper-connected experience, right? So another thing that I really think about when I enabling 5G that could become a huge issue, who owns all the data? Who owns all these data sets? If you really think about it, it's the communication services provider, right? CSP, not cloud services provider. And I'm talking about the AT&Ts of the world. I'm talking about the Verizon, and they're the one. I mean, think about it. These are the folks, one, They're completely compliant with the many government regulations. So they're already trusted by their customer for their quality of service. Majority of their customer base, they do all their businesses, trusting this network, right? They're doing their banking, they're doing everything, right? So they're the one who has this mass amount of data. So the good news is these CSPs will be the one that's going to be the ultimate orchestrator. They're the one who could bring all these ecosystems of player together to work together, hardware vendor, software vendor, services companies, to start designing products and services, right? Oh, one more thing I forgot to mention, cost. It's a huge impediment today. I mean, just think about it. You can go and buy a $5 thermostat, $5. And you try to get a smart thermostat, you could spend anywhere from $300 to $500. That's a several thousand% difference in price. If it is that expensive, you're not going to have mass adoption. It's just not going to happen. It's too expensive, right? So I think what's going to happen is ultimately, once the CSPs becomes ultimately the platform, because they're the one who owns the data, and they work with lawyers and they come up with the ways to share data without compromising, personally identifying information. But what they're doing is that what's valuable to them is the pattern, the behavior, the buying behavior, usage behavior, those behavior pattern that drives the product development. As long as they could come up with something like that, and they have joint development, right? And this is where you're going to see it's going to be an accelerated effort of building better quality of products and services, connected products and services, right? And you're going to see the price is going to go down, right? So higher the manufacturing, more you're making, more the supply out there, cost of manufacturing goes down, right? And it's going to become more affordable by all consumers, right? So I think that we are at a time right now. I think this is an amazing time that you will see that the concept, the smart concept, will really pick up, right? I know we talked about we're going to have a completely dedicated episode talking about smart city, right?
Yeah.
Again, the key enabling technology, again, it's the CSPs, right? It's a 5G provider that's going to enable all of that, right? Yeah.
And I also want to touch upon the point why it matters for these companies to have outside their firms a centralized data sharing model. Because, first of all, if they keep a data in the house, it's a kind of they have a monopoly, right? And secondly, they have a substantial amount of power to deplatform people. Right. So if now the data is decentralized to a centralized model, people can build other services, so there's more competition for people, and it will increase efficiency. So I just wanted to touch upon that point as well.
Yeah. I think in essence, you actually answered one of your own questions. You said good, bad, and the ugly. You actually brought up the ugly part of that, right? That having such monopoly, they have the ability and the power to decentralize people that they don't like, whether their opinion, a speech, whatever it may be, right? So you're absolutely right about that. So I think the centralized model is definitely a risky, and not just from that sense of monopoly, but it's also sense of I don't mean United States, but you're thinking about it in a global angle. Imagine countries that does not have democracy, have dictatorship. This could be extremely dangerous. I mean, imagine being able to have captured data and monitor your political opponents, their movements, their fundraising, where they're going, where they're going to have meetings, which route they take to go the voting booth. I mean, this could really become a seriously problematic and undermine a civil liberty, right, and privacy, right? So on the wrong hand, of course, right? So that's probably would be the uglier example. But let's stick to the positive part of it, right? So I think, because I think our viewers are mostly coming from the fund managers, private equities, and
hedge funds,
right? They're looking into how to best, take advantage of this new gold rush. And this is truly,
also regulators, right?
Yeah.
Because regulators want to know this information, how to regulate, how to propose new regulations, and hopefully replace the existing ones that doesn't work or don't work.
I agree. Yeah. So I think in that sense, I think this brings a tremendous opportunity for innovation, and you're going to see the CSPs are going to play a major role. And I'm not sure if you noticed recently, about a few weeks ago, I got a call from my cable provider asking me if I would be interested in signing up for a 5G, phone service through them. and made me wonder why do they want to get into that? And then soon I believe Google is doing the similar thing, right?
I can go ahead. I'll answer that too because I was part of something very close.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So that kind of, I think, confirms what we've been just discussing.
Yeah.
Because everybody's recognizing what 5G is about to revolutionize the entire industry, the ecosystem, our ways of living as we know it. And everybody's recognizing that they have to come up and also become a CSP, to compete with big players like AT&T and Verizon's and T-Mobile, right? And I think that's why they're jumping into this. But the good news is, that the big players actually have a tremendous advantage on this. So from a corporate strategy standpoint, what do? Do you go ahead and make those multi-billion-dollar investment, build your own, mobile network, be the 5G provider? Yeah, I guess that's one way if your money is not an issue. Or why not just start building products and services and partner with some of these CSPs, right? Which I do understand the concern you raised earlier, that having a monopoly, right? And I think it will not be a monopoly, right? And I think when we as we try to conclude our session, I'm gonna give you some ideas that I think you eventually going to see some of these solutions coming to bear, and it will alleviate some of those concerns about your data becoming monopolized.
Yeah, I want to come back to what you said earlier, why broadband companies are getting into the telecommunication business. I was part of a project when AT&T bought DirecTV and was assisting a broadband company with their strategy work. They felt threatened because AT&T was getting into the broadband business, so now broadband companies want to get into the telecommunication business. So their whole strategy was to do it at MVNO, Mobile Virtual Network Operator. And the problem with that MVNO is they ended up utilizing other telecommunication providers' infrastructure, right, to just have your own brand. So I don't know if the strategy works really efficiently, right? It's just to show other people like, hey, we can start your services. But if AT&T acquired broadband company, DirecTV, right? They don't have to rely on other broadband company to utilize their infrastructure. But this time, the broadband company that I was assisting has to utilize AT&T or some other players' infrastructure. So that's why a lot of people are getting into the broadband company, getting into the telecommunication.
Yeah, they want to become the CSPs. Correct. Yeah. So I think, look, I think we talked about what 5G is. We talked about its potentials, its promises, and of course some ugly. I know there's some concerns out there. So if I may touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we want to talk about, we've been hearing a lot about health concerns. I don't know how true they are, and we should not neglect that. I think we need a lot of study on that. And also, recently there was airline issues, and also what does it do to geopolitics, right? The global labor market. So why don't you tell us?
So there's three things, right? So let's start with the health concern. So the health concern, I have done some serious research. I looked at the metadata. The truth of the matter is there has been quite a few studies that some of them I saw that are more probably accessible or more publicly available from Sweden. Kind of talks about the health risk, but it really could not directly pinpoint that to 5G per se because the technology hasn't been out that long, right? There isn't enough data out there to make a direct correlation that 5G is the culprit. It could be easily people, and the group they were looking at as people that are living close to power lines, like big electrical power lines, right? So it's difficult to make that direct correlation in saying any health impact for using 5G. There has been a lot of talk about cancer among children. Again, I've seen some of the research. None of them has actually made a direct connection to 5G, but rather, again, they're depending on where the research was done, what their condition was, meaning they're closer to a big power generator or huge high voltage power line, things like that, right? So again, this is also inconclusive, right? So I don't want to undermine or I don't want to minimize if there is any potential risk, but looking at all the data set that I've seen so far, I cannot say this with certainty that there is any definitive data out there that could articulate what the risk is. Yet, exactly. Yeah. So I think, look, there's going to be a tremendous amount of research that's going to be done. More investment is coming in its way. Technology still is kind of in its infancy when I see it in the United States. China has already fully deployed it, right? Mm-hmm. But in the United States, I'm assuming there's going to be a ton of research done by the CSPs as well as product and services manufacturers, and I think we're going to learn more, in a very short time, right? So that's that. There was a more well-publicized concern we had that we heard on TV was with airline. There were airline operators in the U.S. They were deeply concerned about interference of 5G with its altimeter, right, for aircraft that measures the distance, distance from the airplane to the ground, right? But the truth is, it was limited to, I believe, it was a 737 aircraft, right, commercial aircraft. It's not every aircraft, right? So again, this is also not fully, vetted, right? I mean, there's concerns, but it doesn't mean, that means those 737 aircraft is not, operating in China or South Korea, where they have much higher density of deployment for 5G, right? So I don't know. So I think this is being looked at. I know the airplane manufacturing, they're looking at this. I know that the transport providers or CSPs, they're looking at this. So I suspect this will work itself out, right? Again, I don't want to take any concern lightly, but it's good that we're talking about it. At least I wanted to bring some specificity what the concern is, right? It's limited to a very specific aircraft type.
Yeah, and provide the current state as it is, right?
Correct.
We need more data to assess, the health issues. But so far, what you are saying is that the study has been done. They don't precisely say that there are health issues, right?
Yeah, correct. And I think the last piece, I think you mentioned geopolitics, right?
Yeah.
So look, you have to look at 5G in its entirety, right? It's going to enable connectivity places that it wasn't there before because the range, right? The how far it can reach, right? So you're looking at for banking, if you're not able to reach a certain customer base because of the rural area, now you're able to reach them, right? So that will impact financial services. It'll impact manufacturing. It'll impact law enforcement, right? I mean, in every aspect of life that you could think of, because this connectivity will enable that. So what does that mean? It's good in a sense if you think of it purely from the access to healthcare. This is tremendous. Access to financial services to people otherwise will have to travel quite distance to get that done. It will also change the way the gig economy. I mean, I think we're going to talk about it in the next episode or so. One of the things we're going to touch upon, it's a very trending topic, is the Great Resignation, era of Great Resignation. People can't find workers, or the people are quitting at a very high number. And why that's a different topic. I'll definitely touch upon that. But I think what is going to happen is this is going to further disrupt the workforce as a whole, because now you're able to work remote from locations that in the past you are constrained by distance, by your quality of service. You couldn't do a video conference if you lived in a rural area because the connectivity wasn't there. That means now you're going to see this problem is going to get even worse, that the remote workers and resignation is going to get worse because broader number of workers are going to become available to the talent pool from different parts of the world that wasn't possible simply because of limitation in technology, right? So this will absolutely disrupt even further the workforce, right? Manufacturing. You're going to see a significant labor impact in industrial manufacturing because 5G will enable now advanced automation, robotics, and which that means there's going to be lesser reliance on physical labor, right? That's definitely going to have an impact. That means municipalities and corporations, they'll have to all come together and they'll have to figure this out to how to address that aspect, because this is going to impact people, right? I mean, if you got a huge amount of middle class America workforce is being impacted of a technology innovation, there has to be something else they can do, right? And then we talked about autonomous vehicle, right? I mean, as it becomes more and more, deployed in cities and states and municipalities, let's just say, if more and more people are driving that type of car, it will completely disrupt the taxation at a municipality level, right? I mean, think about it. The city government, state government, federal government, they have highway patrols, right? Depending on county, depending on the state highways you're in, right? And this is a good source of revenue, right? Now think about powered by 5G and autonomous vehicle. They're not about to go break the speed limit. They will drive safer. There'll be lesser, accidents. There'll be lesser citation, meaning lesser revenue. And mind you, these municipalities exist for the sole purpose of revenue generation. There's an entire back office support system, like the courts and all that exists, right? So this will all be disrupted. So I don't think people even put their mind around it. The innovation that 5G will enable, how disruptive this will be, and every disruption creates new opportunity, right? So it's again, like I said, you have to kind of look at it holistically and figure out that what is the best way to leverage the power of 5G, enable the things that makes a huge difference in the society, and really proceed with caution on capability that could be potentially harmful in the wrong hand, right? As one of the examples we talked about, countries that are not democracy, how they could use that type of data and information against their political opponents, right? Things like that. So, yes, I'll pause. Anything else?
No, thank you. I think you elaborated really well. So now I understand what's 5G and the promises it brings, right? So why don't you bring it all together for us, right? Give us a few action items that focus on to overcome these obstacles that you mentioned and that can help our viewers and listeners to, if you are an investor or regulator, to make informed decisions.
Absolutely. So I think it's going to be 4. Let's keep it to 4 to keep it simple, right? The first and foremost, I think everybody has to recognize the real orchestrator of all these, the entire ecosystem is going to be the CSPs, your AT&Ts and Verizons of the world, right? That means everybody have to start thinking about how to work with these ecosystem, all the ecosystem of players working with all the CSPs, how to develop better products and solution. And I think that'll be one of the best way to eliminate the limitation of lack of data sharing, right, individually. So that's number one. The second piece has to be, I think, kind of looking at the security aspect of this, because if you just think about the sheer density that the 5G supports millions of devices and sensors, right? That means you're going to be a lot more vulnerable or susceptible to some sort of bad actors gaining access to your devices or sensors and do harm, right? So you're going to see a whole industry is going to pop up to support that, and I think that's a tremendous investment opportunity in that area, the security aspect of that, right? The third piece you have to look at is the cost, and I think because, again, it's coming back to this, that more data sharing, that is possible. Bottom line is it cannot be centralized data model. It has to be decentralized. The decentralized data model will facilitate and a tremendous amount of growth, and in capability in manufacturing. That means what? Reduces cost, significant cost. It'll be accessible. It'll be affordable. Now you don't have to pay $500 for a connected thermostat. You'll probably be able to get it for a couple of bucks, right? Maybe $10 or something like that, because now the data and it's going to give you that complete immersive experience, right? Your smart thermostat could actually talk to your smart TV, and your smart TV can talk to your refrigerators, right, and everything else in the house, giving you this entire end-to-end experience, right? And the similar could be leverage for industrial scenario, like industrial manufacturing, right? And I know that I talked about the data centralization. It sounds easier than it actually is because of so much legal complexity and
even the current technology restriction. But I think with the maturity of blockchain, it can be possible.
Yeah, it's possible, right? So, but it's not just addressing the security of the data. But I'm talking about, because I think you brought up a concern earlier that's saying you don't want monopoly either.
Yeah.
So I think the answer is decentralization. So let's just think about something like a Swift. You're familiar with Swift, right? This is.
By the way, I want to just tell this viewers, this is your trademark, right? So, yeah.
I wish, but I would love to do that, though. This would be great. So imagine a Swift-like feature, right, where you have this becomes the governing body for decentralized data, where people will take part, from manufacturing, service providers, product manufacturers, the CSPs, and it will be governed by the Swift like capability, right? And that way, you're able to still govern. You have a nice a global governance bodies, right? You could adhere to, depending which country you're operating, all its regulatory constraints and requirements, right? And at the same token, keep the bad actors out, right? And I think this would be probably something that is absolutely essential, because in absence of having decentralized data sets, you're not going to see that hyper growth in this sector, right? This whole automation and smart home and smart manufacturing capability, it's going to be very much constricted, right? Unless we're able to address that, right? So now that I brought up this idea about, I'm not the first one, by the way. There's other people have, I'm sure, talked about it already.
But I know you've been working on it for a while, and that's why I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Yeah, so I think to wrap it up, right? To make sure we have some capability like Swift-like capability for decentralized data model, a thorough partnership model that will enable all the ecosystems players to work with the CSPs, the AT&Ts and Verizons of the world. There's going to be a whole ecosystem of player that's going to be focused purely around providing this end-to-end security for this entire hyper-connected world, right? And of course, the final piece is the cost. Unless we address the first three, you're not going to be able to achieve the cost that you need to make it more accessible for more people, right? And I think, look, this is a very simple. This conversation, we wanted to, limit this conversation. This topic was purely around 5G. I think we wanted to let people, our viewers, understand that I don't think, a lot of people, when they hear 5G, they think, oh, it's a faster phone. Oh, I'm going to get the latest iPhone. This is so much more. This will change the world, change the way we live, change the way we commute, change the way we consume. Every aspect of life is going to change with full-blown adaptation of 5G technology, right?
Like some applications to financial services, insurance industry, right?
Correct.
So with the autonomous vehicle or self-driving car, the insurance model is going to change. So yeah, the implications are vast.
Correct.
And
Correct.
Yeah, we are just started, I guess.
Exactly. So I think, look, I know this is music to your ear. I think this is probably one of the most amazing time if you are a fund manager or the private equities or venture capital. This is the perfect time, because this is one of those things. Remember when we were talking about cloud? Yes, there was opportunities. Ecosystem of players that were hybrid cloud, private cloud, public cloud, and of course you got virtualizations, and then you've got all the orchestration players, right? Yeah, it was good, but how much did it actually go? It was a limited use. This is tremendous. This is the new gold rush.
It is, coupled with quantum computing, which
Correct.
is going to be another topic for
Correct.
our future podcast. And I think, earlier you touched upon 5G view as an umbrella term, right?
Correct.
It connects everything.
Correct.
And then at the bottom layer is a quantum computing that provides the processing power.
Yep.
We have not seen AI to the level that it'll be once these fully developed technology are commercialized or become available.
Right.
So, yeah.
All right. So I think it's time for some plug.
Yeah, no, thank you, John. It's been very informative, and now I know what 5G is. So I want to say thank you to our listeners and viewers for sharing their time with us, and please stay tuned to the future podcast. We're going to be bringing very exciting topics like smart cities, quantum computing, and then we'll deep dive into some geopolitical issues that are currently standing in a way to bring this technology into our day-to-day lives. So I also want to say thank you to our producer, Marvin, and co-producer, Steve, because without them, this would not be possible. So, John, any last closing words?
Yeah, well, listen, this has been a very thought-provoking and informative discussion, and I'm psyched. I'm looking forward to our next topics. I think what we're talking about, the next one is going to be about
smart cities.
Smart cities. So I think it's going to start bringing together all the power of all these other technology that has reached a certain level of maturity.
Yeah.
It's almost there, but quite hasn't been because some of the limitation that 5G will fill in. So I'm really excited for those topics, the next discussions. And like you said, thanks to our producers. They've done a phenomenal job. I don't think without them to putting together a podcast, it's a lot of work. I don't think anybody realizes this. So thanks, Marvin and Steve, and thank you to our loyal listeners and our audience. And thank you for the opportunity. We look forward to present you with some really good content in the coming weeks and months.
And
thank
also, before I forget, please stay tuned. We're going to be giving out some giveaways, right? As maybe in next few podcasts. So, yeah, if you can, subscribe and share your ideas and leave us a comment or a like button. So, thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.